Thor, the god of thunder. One of the most powerful heroes in the MCU, and at one point, one of the most beloved. His journey took him from a reckless prince to a battle-hardened king, a hero who lost everything yet still fought for what was right. And then, Endgame happened. The same warrior who nearly killed Thanos with a single strike was now a shell of his former self. His trauma played for laughs. What should have been an emotional exploration of grief turned into one of the MCU's biggest missteps. So, how did Thor ruin one of Marvel's most compelling characters? Let's break it down. To understand why Endgame fumbled Thor's character, we need to look at how far he had come. When we first met him, Thor was reckless, eager for battle but unworthy of his power. His first film was about learning humility, proving he could be more than just a brute with a hammer. By the time of the Avengers, he was learning the cost of war. His brother had fallen into darkness, and he was forced to reckon with the weight of his family's actions. Then came the Dark World, which, despite its flaws, further pushed him towards selflessness. He lost his mother, teamed up with Loki one last time, and ultimately rejected the throne, realizing he wasn't ready to be a king. But Ragnarok was where he truly came into his own. He lost Mjolnir, lost his father, lost his home, but in doing so, he found something greater, himself. He became more than his hammer, more than a prince. He became a leader. By the time of Infinity War, he was at his peak. He had suffered unimaginable loss, but instead of falling apart, he pushed forward, determined to stop Thanos. And when he arrived in Wakanda, wielding Stormbreaker, it was clear Thor had never been stronger, never been more powerful, never been more important to the fight. But then he failed, and that's where everything changed. Thor's failure in Infinity War should have been the foundation for his greatest comeback. Instead, Endgame turned it into a joke. 5 years later, we meet a very different Thor. He's gained weight, he's given up, and he's drowning in self-loathing. On paper, this could have been an incredibly powerful depiction of grief, one of the most powerful Avengers brought to his lowest point. But instead of treating his trauma with the depth it deserved, Endgame used it for comedy. The problem isn't that Thor was broken. Grief affects everyone differently. The problem is that the movie doesn't respect his pain. Every moment that should have been introspective is undercut by a joke. His PTSD? A punchline. His weight gain? A running gag. His depression? Something for other characters to roll their eyes at. Compare this to the handling of Tony's PTSD in Iron Man 3. His anxiety wasn't mocked. It was explored. We saw his vulnerability, his struggle to cope. Now imagine if, instead, every panic attack was met with a fat joke. That's what happened to Thor. There are glimpses of brilliance. When Thor sees his mother again, there's a real, emotional moment. One of the few times Endgame allows him to be vulnerable without making a joke out of it. But even then, the film immediately shifts back to humor, never fully letting Thor reclaim his confidence. By the time we reach the final battle, Thor is barely a shadow of the warrior we saw in Infinity War. While Cap and Iron Man get their defining moments, Thor is mostly sidelined, played for laughs rather than triumph. And just like that, his arc is left unfinished. Instead of stepping back into his role as a leader, he abandons Asgard and joins the Guardians, setting up yet another comedic version of the character. Endgame had the perfect setup for Thor's redemption, but instead of rising, he was reduced to a joke. With Endgame, Thor's story was left in an odd place. He didn't reclaim his throne. He didn't get a true moment of redemption. Instead, he was sent off with the Guardians, setting up a future that, unfortunately, didn't fix the damage that had been done. Did love and thunder bring him back to his former glory? Not really. Instead of restoring his depth, the movie doubled down on the comedy. While there were glimpses of his emotional struggles, like his lingering grief over Jane and his search for purpose, his character was once again treated as a joke first and a hero second. The problem wasn't that Thor was funny. He's always had humor. The problem was that the balance between comedy and depth was completely lost. Instead of a god struggling with loss and redemption, we got a parody of the Thor we once knew. His story isn't over, but the question is, can Marvel fix him? Can we get back the Thor who stood against Thanos, who wielded lightning with purpose, who carried the weight of the cosmos on his shoulders? Or is he doomed to be a walking joke? If he does return in Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars, Marvel has a chance to course correct. A chance to bring back the warrior, the leader, the god of thunder, not just the punchline. Because Thor deserves better. What do you think? Did Bro Thor ruin Thor's character, or was it just a natural part of his evolution? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Marvel content. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.